The Joe Rogan Experience.
When did you decide that you were going to do this 14 Peaks thing and then film this? And
Okay.
what was the moment where this idea came into your head?
So, Joe, obviously you asked me two questions. Let me break down. So, 2019, at this point, I served with the UK Special Forces for 10 years. I've been around the world. I have obviously done some crazy shit, that people won't probably see on the movies and all that. So what happened in 2019 was I found the purpose. And look, just to even put things into perspective, at this point, I had served 16 years in the British military. I had only 6 years left to get the full pension. So, so if you look from the financial perspective, I'm really there to get the full pension. But then I got this idea, like the 14 Peaks. So why I'm doing this? So I had two purposes. The first one was, look, doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, whatever that is, you can literally show the world nothing is impossible, no excuses. And the second one was, look, the Nepalese climbing community, the Sherpas, are the king of 8,000ers, but we never had the right, credits. And I wanted to raise the name of the Nepalese climbers. And those two purposes gave me the strength. So what happened after that was, straight away I went to the HR. I put my resignation. And people went mental. They were like, my brother specifically like, Nims, you know what, you're so selfish. Because at this point, I used to send, a chunk of my salary every month to my mom and dad. I really believe that our parents, they look after us when we're like kids and vulnerable. And as a give back to them, when they get older, they're also vulnerable, they cannot work and all that. So I was always, sending them money. So when I decided about this project and when I put the resignation, I know that there's no money going to them. My brother went really mental. It's like, Nims, you are the most strongest financial contributor in our family. And you know what? None of the Gurkhas have ever been there. You should complete your career. And I was like, no, brother. And we didn't talk for 3 months, me and my brother. And he's like my father. He's the one who sent me to boarding school.
I'm gonna slow you down here. So you had this idea, and because of this idea, you decided to resign?
Yeah.
And this idea of climbing the 14 Peaks, when it first came into your head, what was your goal? It was just to elevate the Nepalese climbers? Was it to raise money? Was it to raise awareness?
No, so it was, again, literally to show the world that nothing is impossible. There's no excuses.
But that's
but
that's not a career, right? So you're
not
quitting,
a career.
You're quitting your career to show the
100%.
world that nothing is impossible.
I didn't only quit my career, my brother. I put everything on the line, and I'll go in details what I mean by that. So I resigned, and it was really tough. Look, I came from this completely different world, special forces background. I had never experience of doing the fundraising, and when I first start talking about the project, people were like, Nims, it's not possible. So for those people who doesn't understand what I was trying to do was, so there are 14 mountains in the world above 8,000 meters. And 8,000 meters is the Death Zone peak. And the fastest
8,000 meters is what?
It's a death zone.
Death zone.
So the reason why it's called death zone is from that altitude, nobody can survive. The human body is literally dying. So that's why it's called the Death Zone Peak, because all those 14 are above 8,000 meters.
So you can only be up there for a very small amount of time.
Yeah. And so the fastest time was a week short of 8 years. To be precise, it was 7 years, 11 months, and 14 days. And the guy who tried to break that record broke it only by 1 week. So that was that. And then I said I will do that in 7 months. And people were like, no, it's impossible. Again, those guys who are listening, just to put this into simple perspective. So if the record for full marathon is now 2 hours, what I was saying there then was I'm going to do that in 10 minutes. And that's why nobody believed in. And so it was crazy. I used to wake up at like 4 o'clock, write the email, take early train to London, meet all those, entrepreneurs, corporate organizers, pitch them, repeat the same thing, come back home, quick food. Then I write again in the follow-up email, hey, nice to meet you today, and, follow-up email.
Let me stop you there. Hold on. So you have this idea. You don't have any experience in filmmaking. You don't have any
Nothing.
experience in the media. You have no experience in doing anything in the public eye.
No.
Everything you've done has been just
Undercover.
grinding as a Gurkha, grinding as a special forces operator. This is what you're doing. And then you just decide, I'm going to do this and I want to make a movie about it.
Yeah.
So who do you contact? How do you even start that process?
Yeah, so it was tough. So the first thing was to get the money to go and climb. So
How did you even know how much money you needed?
the high altitude mountaineering is quite expensive. Let's say even if
Right.
somebody want to do this, the whole 14 peaks, it will roughly cost around $2 million.
$2 million.
$2 million. And because I was going as a very bare minimum, because I don't need that much support, I put roughly under $1 million margin. And you know what, brother? Nothing. There was no funding. After 1 year of going everywhere. And then what I did, the first thing was,
When you say go everywhere, how do you even start? I don't have any experience
Can
in
I-
that, so I don't know who would I contact to fund a giant project where I'm going to climb 14 peaks.
I'll just give you this example. So one of the example was, I wrote a handwritten letter to who's the owner of Virgin. I Google it. Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Yes. And I write that in a very long letter, full handwritten, and I cover that and put those in a stamp so that it will get his attention, and nothing came. So I was just going after anything from outdoor companies, outdoor
And
clothing.
this is already after you'd already quit your job.
I have already quit, so I have already made the decision, and that's why it was so stressful, because now all my family are suffering because of my decision. My poor wife, she was and for the first time, I had to suffer through this kind of, the stress. Look, mate, I have done HR, I have been deployed all over the world, I have operated in very that split seconds kind of, environment where your decision has to be bummers, and that doesn't stress me out. But here it was mental. My eyes.
How are you making a living?
This was like that.
How are you making money?
So at this point, we didn't have money.
You
So
had
what-
no money.
no,
So
we-
how are you eating? How are you paying your rent?
So whatever we had, a bit of saving, and all that, it was there.
So you were burning through your savings
yeah,
while trying to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
And so what was the first thing that hit that let you know that this is possible?
Because
What-
I believed in it.
No. That's not what I mean. What was the first thing where someone said yes? Where someone said, I'll give you money?
No. So what happened was the funding was really, really struggling. And what I did was, people don't believe it because, of course, in their eyes, what even Red Bull says, it's like swimming to the moon. So even when they say things like that, so of course, people were like, oh, it's too much stuff. Then what I did was I remortgaged my house and put every money I can put into this project. And that was only less than, I would say, 7% of the whole funding.
And this is before anybody's contributed.
Yeah.
No, so you have no investors.
Nothing.
You don't even have Netflix.
Forget Netflix. And I'll come into that story later on,
Okay.
brother. So at this point, and eventually I started doing GoFunding. I had no social media. So in March 2019, when I resigned from the Special Forces, I had no idea, but I didn't even have Facebook, Instagram, anything. Nothing. So I had to learn how to do all this hashtag and everything. It will drive me nuts.
Do you do all your social media?
Now it's still yes.
So you reached out to me from
Yeah.
social media. That's actually you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I never know.
No,
I'm like,
it's-
this might
that
be
was,
some.
That was me. Yeah. So
I never
yeah.
know because
Yeah.
I think it might be some
PR
assistant
team.
somewhere,
No.
a PR team. Yeah.
I have a team now, but I still do my thing because then
Good for you.
it's authentic.
I do
right?
too. I
It's
do my
me.
thing too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So going back into that one, Joe, what I really believed in was, okay, people doesn't believe now, but if I start climbing this mountain in the manner and in the style that I said I would do it, it's going to be possible. So I took the flight to Nepal with 15% of the funding. Then there were a bit of small, I would say sponsorship came in, a few money from GoFundMe. And at that point, when I fly to Nepal, I had 15% of the total funding. So the first mountain I chose was Annapurna. So in Annapurna is like where every 4 climbers who try to climb, 3 dies trying. So that was my first mountain. And you know what? This was the first time ever in the history of my life.
Hold on. You said every 4 climbers, 3 die?
Yeah.
Isn't it every 4 climbers, 1 die?
No, that's not on Annapurna. That's on
Really?
K2. This is Annapurna.
That's
every
K2.
4. Yeah.
So most people die.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So this is
So that's your first one.
first one, and this mountain.
So I guess if you were gonna die, you're gonna die quick. let's just get it over with. That's so nuts.
Yeah.
What are they dying from? Are they dying from
avalanches, it's the mountain
Oh,
where you
Jesus.
see avalanches crumbling every
every
minutes.
that is so crazy. Every 4 climbers, 3 die?
Yeah.
That sounds so insane.
Mate, that's crazy, that mountain. And
Jamie's looking it up
Yeah.
right now. He's freaking out too. No one's quicker at looking shit up than Jamie, by the way.
yeah. And you know what? This mountain, the big thing what I was trying to say, Joe, was
How do you spell that mountain?
it's Annapurna.
Annapurna.
Annapurna, yes.
So how many people have climbed it, all told?
I'm not gonna lie, I have no clue.
Here it goes. 32%. There have been fewer than 200 summits of the mountain, and 61 people have lost their lives. So it's not quite that much.
No, you know what? Because I changed that statistics in 2019. When I went there and set the fixed lines with my team, more than, I think, 50 people submitted in 2019.
Right, but here's the stat. Every 3 people who reach the top, 1 person dies. So you got it reversed. That makes more sense.
Okay.
It's close
I
enough.
think
It's
I
still,
think that's, but you know what? In
still
last,
very, very dangerous.
in last
it's
two-
not like it's less impressive.
Okay, you know what, Joe? I'm not gonna argue on that. But in last
It's
2
fucking
years,
Jamie. He's a wizard, I'm telling you.
in last 2 years, I think there are around 80 summits.
I can't believe there's
Before.
one.
But
What
anyway.
the fuck is wrong with these people? Stay home. So that is insane, though, that many people die.
Yeah. And Annapurna is, and you know what? This was probably the first time in my history where I was out of my shape, because every energy I had was on the computers writing email, and I was.
Oh,
as
you're
you-
out of shape.
As you see on the movie, I was 10 kg heavier. I hadn't trained at all, and I was like, you know
Well,
what?
You have an insane cardio. That's one of the things from the movie that was so evident. You have very, very unusual cardio. Do you think that some of that is you're just gifted? Or do you think that's from the training that you had when you were a young boy? Do you think you just made yourself have insane cardio from those runs you did when you were 16 years old? Because when they were doing that VO2 max test on you,
Yeah.
that's insane, man. I mean,
Yeah.
your cardio is like elite of the elite.
Yeah, I think it's that muscle memory, where I have been training, since I was kid, and
Yeah.
non-stop, and obviously which we discussed earlier. I think that's what it made me who I am today. The hard work, the training and training and training. But Joe, a lot of people think probably, oh yeah, Nims is from Nepal, he's from the mountains, and he climbed all this peak. I grew up in the most flat and the hottest part of Nepal.
How flat is it? What's
Mate,
the altitude
it's
there?
like almost like sea level, and it is like
It's
probably
sea level?
45 degrees hot
Oh.
Celsius.
Oh, that's very hot.
That's very hot. Even the flies would die on the road.
Yeah, what is 45 degrees Celsius? That's like 100.
Google it, buddy.
I want to say that's like 110. Is it higher?
Yeah, 113.
113?
It's
Oh my
crazy,
God.
mate. And it's that hot sometimes those
And it's like
those
sea
lifts,
level.